It's Cheer.
And this is Loathing.
We're here to talk to you about movies.
She loves everything. I hate everything.
This should be fun.
This is a morbidly beautiful podcast.
Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Cheer and Loathing. Episode 50. Yay, we survived each other for this long. And you haven't, I don't think you've cried yet on an episode, so maybe that'll change.
No, not
today.
on the air, but afterwards for sure.
Oh, okay. Well, I feel a little bit better then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 50. Tell us about it. You said you got something for us, so.
Yeah, so did I miss, so you're Casey, and I'm Stephanie.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's 50
and
fucking
we're Cheer and
episodes.
Loathing.
They should know that by now, yeah.
Hey, we get new listeners every minute of the day. Like, people
It's
just
true.
constantly
We're up
flooding
to
in to discover us.
4.5 billion now, I think.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, people need to know who we are.
That's true.
Who they are as well.
I mean, it's
good to know who they are.
Introspective sort of thing. You got to kind of look at the mirror sometimes and be like, this is who I am today.
Yes. So 50 episodes. We have been together for 50 episodes, Casey.
Mm-hmm.
And my question for you is, has it been every bit as magical as you imagined it would be? Okay, so since it's our special episode, I'm gonna take your silence as a yes. That's
Sure.
how I get through the day. Is
Yeah.
I just imagine things are as I want them to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so since it's a bit of a special episode, we talked about a lot of different ideas, and I still think that we are going to do some more stuff to celebrate, but we didn't want to hold this episode up for forever, so it'll feel pretty similar to a normal episode. We did mix it up just a tiny bit.
A little bit.
And one of the things that we did is, so as you guys know, our faithful, loyal listeners, and for anybody who is new, Casey tends to hate everything.
Generally.
And I tend to love everything and think everything is a masterpiece, as Casey makes fun of.
I'm just stating facts, that's all.
Yes, of course. So this week, what we decided to do is I am attempting to pick a film that I think there's a chance that Casey will actually enjoy for a change.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Casey has the harder challenge, because I gave Casey the challenge of trying to find a movie he thought that I maybe would not enjoy.
Correct.
Okay, so I think before we dive in, sorry, my voice. Let's talk about, I know, my voice it's always totally fine until I get on the microphone, and then it's like, no, you don't need this thing, do you?
Well, that's the microphone that we did a little transaction on, so maybe I poisoned it.
That would not surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Even a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we talk about our God, I can't speak. We're
50
recording
episodes,
earlier
people. 50 episodes.
We're recording earlier than usual too, so I'm not at my best self, but that's okay. I'm gonna get it together. Let's talk about what we picked and why. Okay. Do you want me to go first?
Sure. You seem like you're all ready to go, so let's do it.
I'm a consummate professional. I'm always prepared, Casey.
Mm-hmm. Always.
Okay, always. Okay, so I picked a really recent release. I think it just came out last weekend. It is a supernatural horror film called MALUM. And I'm just going to give a little bit of backstory. We don't have to go into the whole film, but I just want to talk about what MALUM is. So it's got a really interesting backstory. It is a reboot of a sleeper indie horror hit that was released back in 2014 called Last Shift.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reboot this is a really unusual thing. The reboot is by the exact same director and writers that did Last Shift. And basically, there was this new indie distribution studio that came to the director, Anthony DeBlasi, and asked him if he was interested in revisiting the Last Shift universe and perhaps expanding it, doing a sequel, telling more of the story. And so he kind of thought about that, and he said, he was incredibly fond of Last Shift, thought it was a really solid film, was really proud of it, but, had a lot of ideas about how he could kind of go further with it. And where he actually landed was he wanted to reboot, instead of doing a sequel or something like that, he wanted to reboot the original because he said that, due to significant budget limitations, like The Last Chef was made with almost no money, he had to leave a lot of his ideas on the cutting room floor. He really couldn't pull off a lot of the special effects and a lot of the things that he wanted to do. And he couldn't get into as much of the story as he wanted to tell. So he's like, I'm going to revisit it with a significant amount more money. And I think I can really perfect this film. And one of his other primary goals was, he said he was very, very bummed out that people couldn't see Last Shift in the theaters, because he is one of those people that really thinks that enhances the viewing experience significantly. So with MALUM, he was promised that he would get a theatrical release. So he is like, people get to see the film that I wanted to make originally, made with love, and they get to see it in the theaters if they so choose. So that is what MALUM is. Now, we don't have to jump in right now, but Casey, just to confirm, you have not seen Last Shift, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So we will talk about that. But before we do, why don't you talk about what you picked for me?
Oh, my God. You're asking me
God.
Oh, my God. I wasn't prepared for that. No. I picked a 2017, 2018, somewhere in that range, psychological thriller, I guess, called Bloodline. And it stars the Stiffmeister himself, Seann Willam Scott, as kind of like a Dexter-esque character. He has like this dark passenger, if you will, from his childhood traumas, where he enacts murder upon people who he thinks deserves it. And I picked this because I didn't know how you would feel about somebody who played Stifler in a serious role as a serial killer. And I thought maybe you might hate this because of that reason alone. I was trying to think along the lines of the only movie that on this podcast that you actually ever hated, and I think that was Smiley. So I tried to think along those lines, and this is one that kind of popped up. I'd seen this one a long, long time ago, but I did give it a rewatch. So I thought maybe you might hate it, and I don't know. Based on your social media posts, it seems like you did not.
Oh, cheater.
I can't help what Instagram shows me.
Yeah, you can't help that you stalk me. I mean, what's a boy to do?
Look, Instagram shows me like 4 people I actually follow, and you're one of them, so.
Aww. Yeah, so we are going to see. So again, I picked something I thought, I really feel like there is a chance Casey might like this. And you obviously picked something that you thought that there's a chance I might not like.
Mm-hmm.
So now we get to see how good we are at predicting each other, how well we know each other after 50 episodes, and if we passed or failed this little experiment.
Mm-hmm.
So which one do you think we should start with? Do you want to go backwards, forward, or?
I'll let you decide. You seem to have thoughts on at least MALUM.
Really.
So
I've shared all my. I have thoughts on both of the films for sure.
Course, sure.
Let's start with MALUM, if that sounds good to you.
Sure.
Okay. So as we established, you had not seen Last Shift. Now, and you didn't go back and rewatch it after watching MALUM, correct?
Correct.
Because that would have been the smart professional thing to do, is
right.
to, do the research. Yeah, but you didn't do that, so that's cool. Okay, so I have seen Last Shift, and I really loved Last Shift.
Okay. I
thought, so that's kind of my starting point. I just want to let you know where I'm coming from. I thought it was surprisingly scary, and things don't, I've talked about this before, like I love horror, but things don't typically scare me or get under my skin. I'll enjoy them and I'll be entertained by them, but I rarely am I like, I'm kind of freaked out right now.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute for me too.
Yeah, so that one really did. It was a really small little film. It dropped direct to digital, but then it got kind of big. I mean, relatively big, just from word of mouth, just from buzz, people talking about it, because it was such a kind of surprise thing, and it did feel a little different than I think stuff we'd seen before. It sort of was dropped really quietly without a lot of fanfare, but then, I heard a lot of people when it came out. A lot of people were talking about it, buzzing about it. Yeah, I thought it was just really, really well done. And I think that it definitely had a low budget, but they so smartly used that budget and, the conceit of just being a single location. And they were able to do a lot with a little. And I thought, I thought it was a cool story. I thought it was well acted. I thought the effects were really cool. You know, they were all practical by necessity, but also because that was like really important to the director. Really liked it. So then when I heard about MALUM, I was like, that's really weird. Like, this movie has been out less than 10 years. It's the same director, same like writers. And why the hell are they remaking this little like indie horror film? That didn't make a lot of sense. And then that's when I had to kind of do some research and try to figure out like what's going on here. I will say that outside of that, the marketing for MALUM looked really cool. Like, you could tell right away it was like much more polished. They had a really cool poster, really good trailer, really good like everything they were kind of putting out on social and stuff. Made it look like a really cool movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I was incredibly excited. I went into this one with anticipation, which I need to say that because that always, I think, kind of somewhat colors your experience when you have expectations and you are like already into something. You, on the other hand, went into it completely blind. No idea what Last Shift was. Probably knowing you probably didn't watch the trailer, didn't do a lot because you like to go in kind of cold.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at like Last Shift on Rotten Tomatoes at the moment, and this like poster thingy looks very familiar. So maybe I saw it on a streaming site, just kind of skipped over it or something. But I mean, it also kind of is a generic poster, so it looks like 100 different ones, maybe.
Yeah. So it's most important since I was like, was very optimistic that this might be one that you could get behind a little bit and that you might dig. It seems to have a lot of the things that you tend to like when we talk about films. So I'm very curious what your sort of virgin experience with MALUM and with the Last Shift universe was, and overall impressions and kind of how you felt about it.
Right. So I want to talk about the Rotten Tomatoes score for a second here.
Oh, I always forget. Yes, please.
Yeah. Because it usually divides us, and it usually it favors you for the critic score, and I'm usually leaning towards more the audience score. So Last Shift has 100% from 10 reviews on critics and 51% on audience. MALUM, being fairly new, I guess doesn't quite have the same exposure, maybe. It's hard to say. But it does have an 83 critic and 72 audience. So lost 20 and gained 20, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah, so like I said, I had no idea really what it was. And looking at some of the names here, like I'm just going to point out, like, I'm glad they changed the name of the villain, because in Last Shift, it was fucking on the nose. I assume it's the same-ish character, John Michael Paimon. Come on.
Yeah,
that's a little nail on the head. So changing it to, I think it was John Michael MALUM, sounds a little bit better in MALUM. But thoughts. So this is one of those movies where, like, I don't want to judge it too harshly because it is an independent film.
No, okay.
And I didn't hate it. I'll say right off the bat, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. It had one of the tropey things that I find, especially a lot of independent movies have, is the juxtaposition between acting levels is through the fucking roof. So some of them were fantastic. Other ones were like, how does this person get in front of a camera? How do they call themselves an actor, sort of thing? And it takes me out of it. And maybe it's the writing, maybe it's the directing, maybe it's the way the actor interpreted the role. But the thing that jumps out is like the dickhead cop right at the beginning that the protagonist kind of meets. He's so over the top of an asshole. Like, people like that don't exist. And it just takes me out of it so much when people are like that.
Listen, I don't know. I mean, I hear you, but I've been doing 50 episodes with you, and I will have to disagree that real life super assholes don't exist.
Okay, they exist, but I mean, like, for no reason right off the bat, just like that. It's like, I don't know, man. Like, come on.
Well, in his defense, I think that he's traumatized. Like, he is basically, I think they're implying that he's seeing shit because he is coming out of the holding area and he's like, don't go in the holding area. And he's really like paranoid and he's like strung out because they're being haunted.
Mm-hmm.
So I I don't know if you're entirely wrong here, but I would just say that there is somewhat of a reason for him to be acting so weird and
I don't
so
know.
scary.
It doesn't feel natural when people act like that in movies. Like I said, it feels like acting. Mm-hmm. Whereas when the protagonist, I don't even remember her fucking name. I watched it almost 2 weeks ago now, a week and a half. So I mean, I don't remember anybody's name.
That's crazy.
I know. I don't know why it's crazy, but I know. Anyway.
Because you always watch stuff like the day of the recording.
Well, we watched a screener version of this.
That's true. We did.
So we only had a limited amount of time. So I watched it like April 1st or something like that. Or whenever you sent it to me. So I like the names are going to kind of whatever. But the lead chick, she experiences arguably something very similar to what that stupid cop did. And her reaction seemed a little more natural to the situation. As opposed to his. And then, like I said, she was really good. I think the guy who played MALUM was pretty good. And then there was one, like, not background, but, like, supporting cop. He wasn't in too much, but he had a mustache. I thought he was quite good. He was very natural. Like, he was partnered with the fat guy.
Yeah.
That dude, he was good. I didn't like, but everybody else was just kind of like, you know how kids on like the Disney Channel act very over the top, very like expressive and to get the point across because they're like acting to kids and the kids need a little bit more. They don't pick up on the subtleties as much. That's almost how it felt like some of these people were acting in this movie. It was very much like I need to express and be big and loud and not be natural. And it took me out of a lot of it.
See, I mean, I will say to counter that though, I mean, essentially, yes, there are more people in this movie, but it's essentially a one-woman show. Like 99% of it, you are with the lead actress.
Sure.
And she's alone in a prison. Well, I guess I'm just saying that, like, if not all the performances hit, that's probably a minor quibble. As long as as long as she sold it and you were engaged with her, I feel like you could probably be okay.
I agree to an extent. Yeah, like her scenes when she was in it was fine, but the fact that there were other people and they didn't have huge roles and they still couldn't nail them, like I said, it goes from being like, I'm kind of engaged with her to fully out of it. It's almost like this is probably a reference you're not going to get, but in a video game when there's like a big dramatic cut scene, and this is usually like a mid-2000s thing, and they're like, oh my god, the character's going through this thing, but there's a big sparkly item that's just flickering and blinking in the background because you know you can go pick it up after this cutscene's done. It kind of was like that. It's like, I'm immersed, I'm suddenly taken out of it.
I'm sorry, did you say that I like wouldn't get a reference to a video game cutscene?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you play video games? Would you understand that reference?
Yes, I understand. Yes, I play video games. And yes, well, I don't so much anymore because the reason I don't is because I become consumed and I will waste 30 hours in a blink of an eye and not get anything done. So
yes, understandable.
I leave them. They're like a drug. I kind of try to leave them alone for the most part, but I do really love them. Okay. And yes, of course, I know cutscenes, dummy.
Okay, yes, but do you know the cutscenes where it's like the big glowing item is blinking in the background behind the bad guy's head? Yeah, so that's kind of the thing that it felt like. It felt like I was watching a really dramatic cutscene, and then all of a sudden, like the big shiny showed up and took me right out of it.
Here's my assessment of what's happening here.
Okay.
And you'll tell me I'm wrong, but
yeah,
I'm not.
Of course,
but you can pretend. I feel like because you're Casey, you're like, oh, I'm not gonna fucking like this movie. Like, I don't know what she's thinking. This bitch tried to pick something for me that she thinks I'll like. I am going to watch this like with an intense desire to hate it, and I'm going to look for things that I can find that I hate, and that's what I'm going to fixate on. Because I don't think, like, I think as far as I'm trying to think of people who maybe would fit your description or what you're kind of describing as far as the acting. Mm-hmm. And I can really only think of that first cop who is like kind of intensely angry. Mm-hmm. Everybody else I thought was perfectly like good, like serviceable to good to great.
I didn't like the mom. I definitely did not like the female cult leader. Like she was trying to be like the Joker or something. It was very like, I get like there's crazy and then there's movie crazy, and that was just like over the top movie crazy. I can go on. Like, I mean, that was just, we started small with the nitpicking. I can move on.
Oh, I can't wait. Please move on
Good.
to more criticism.
So the next step up in the criticism would be the monster design. While cool.
What?
While cool, that one, like, I don't know what the fucking demon that was in it for like 15 seconds. Come on. Very Cenobite ripoffy. That was plucked right out of Hellraiser.
I liked it.
Yeah, of course you liked it because it reminded you of Hellraiser.
Well, you know what? I mean, so it's homage-y, you know? Like, that's fine.
Is it homage-y or is it rip-offy?
I think it was homage-y.
I don't know. And to kind of piggyback on that, this movie definitely, in my opinion, which is totally 100% right, it started off it started off strong, and it kind of climaxed and got really strong, and then the ending was just like they didn't know what to do, and they're like, just throw everything at the fucking screen. There was so much going on in the ending, I couldn't follow it. There was they were like, and I just wanted to go back to when you said like
sure,
with the last shift where they had to leave some stuff on the cutting room floor. Sometimes that's for the best. Like, I get the whole George Lucas fiddle with Star Wars until it's your vision, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I don't know what Last Shift had to, in terms of designs and monsters and climax and crescendos and endings and all that sort of shit, but it seemed like he's like, I got a budget of X amount of dollars. Let's make all these cool ass monster designs and just throw them all into the movie. Whether they mean anything or not, just throw them in there because they look fucking cool. Sometimes you need that little bit of discretion.
Okay, so I really wish, you had seen Last Shift, and I would encourage you to go back and watch it if you have some time.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we'll talk about it on another episode, or just watch it for yourself personally, because it's really interesting you said that, because one of the criticisms, I think Last Shift is really right, and you might enjoy it more given your feedback to this one, because it is much more sort of subdued. One, just because out of necessity, but also two, and as you mentioned, like, I think that's one of the reasons Last Shift was such a kind of phenomenon, is because it had no budget. That obviously forces a lot of creativity, and it does like force restraint, and it forces really like kind of smart decisions. And I think they handled it really well. And yeah, sometimes when you know more isn't necessarily more, or it is just more for the sake of being more, and it doesn't really like make it better. This is definitely like way more over the top than Last Shift was, but it's interesting because one of the criticisms of Last Shift by a lot of fans was that the ending fell kind of flat, because it does do such a good job with like tension and like creeping you the hell out and like building and building and building, that the end, it isn't explosive like MALUM is. There isn't like all this shit happening. It is kind of a very quiet ending. I thought it was really good, but a lot of people are like it should have had this big climactic ending, given like how strong the first part of the film was.
Right.
So I think that this MALUM was an attempt to address that, and an attempt to end on a big note, and to like not end on a whimper. And so I would be interested, even if you just watch the end of Last Shift, because the story's very similar and a lot of the beats are very similar. And get your thoughts on comparatively, because it is like, you know, like I liked MALUM. I like both of them, and they're not very different films, but they are different films. I enjoyed the kind of big spectacle. I thought it was a lot of fun, but I get where you're coming from. It is a lot, and he does throw a lot at you at one time. And it's almost like I said, it almost felt like he's like, I got all these toys, I got to show everybody them. And I mean, I probably would too, to be honest. Which is fair. I mean, like when I first started like creating stuff, be it photographs or writing or whatever, I thought the same thing. Like, I don't know what I like the best, so I'm going to put it all in and see what happens. And as I've kind of grown up a little bit, I realized that's probably not the best way to go about it. Like, when I used to do photo shoots for people, I'd give them like hundreds of pictures
I'm like, they don't need that many now. Why do they need 15 pictures of basically the same portrait headshot, just slightly different? Like their eye might be a little bit more open or what? Like they don't need it. Give them the best one. And that's kind of the way I think this should have went. Like they should have chose one. Like, what was the point of the demon? The demon seemed to have no bearing on the story, or like never even referenced. It was more of like a blood cult thing, and then like this guy is a monster, now this guy's a monster, now they got these people as monsters, and now there's a demon. It's like, what the fuck is going on? Settle down.
Well, the cult worships the demon. The cult makes blood sacrifices to the demon. So
right, but I mean, there were other things in it. Like it I don't know. It just felt like, especially since it was all jammed in the last 10 minutes, it just seemed like too much.
In Last Shift, it's more of a Charles Manson-y type of cult.
Well, that's kind of what this one is also a little bit Charles Manson-y, right?
But this one leans more into like the demonic aspect.
Right. Because he had the money to make that demon, I guess.
I don't know. Like, I mean, it's definitely a personal preference, so I can't really say you're wrong. I definitely get where you're coming from. And I just think it's interesting, like having the benefit of seeing both. It's interesting to see kind of like that was probably the most fascinating for me, is seeing the choices he made. And because there is, like I said, there's a lot of the beats that are very similar. Mm-hmm. So it's not a brand new story. Like it's, if you've seen one, you kind of like know what happens in the other. He just basically expands the story, adds a little bit more backstory, a little bit more depth, and then really kind of goes a lot heavier into the special effects and that kind of stuff. But it's interesting to see like where, at what point he made choices. And like even the intro scene where the cop, it's very similar in Last Shift, but it's played very differently. And I think you would like it better because it's much more subdued. The cop in the Last Shift is, he's clearly a little agitated, but he's not being shitty to her. Like he's not being like super aggressive or anything.
Yeah.
And so and I don't know. That's an interesting. I'm not sure why they made the choice to make the cop in this one like. And I think it's really just to, if I was making a prediction, I think they're just trying to set the stage that she's really alone and no one supports her, and even like the people that she was supposedly call for help, like if she gets in a bad situation, are like total dicks and don't have time for her and just want her to like go fuck off. So I don't know, maybe it's just to like really set up the stage, like, all right, she's got problems with her mom, who is, an alcoholic, and they're estranged. She lost her dad in this really tragic way. The cops are all dicks. Like she is alone. So
yeah,
I don't know, maybe there's some of that.
I get that they're trying to like make it seem like, yes, she is definitely alone, but I don't know cop culture, but I'm pretty sure they always have each other's backs no matter what. And being like, yeah, you're on your fucking own tonight. Good luck. Haha, there's a cult on the loose. They're going to kill you, motherfucker. Ha. Don't call me. Like, I don't think that would happen.
Well, I think because what they do, because in the first one, there's no like the dad connection. Mm-hmm. That's new to MALUM. And so I think the reason that she's getting so much shittiness is because her dad in MALUM killed a bunch of cops.
Yeah.
Was a hero turned, like he got possessed and then he killed a bunch of cops and then killed himself. So she's like tainted, she is the daughter of this cop who is like,
and I
public
totally
enemy number one.
Like get that as well. So I mean that is the reason, or like the explanation for why these cops are treating her so shitty. It's just, I don't know. It just, again, it doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't feel natural to me for something like that to happen. So, I mean, it seems like that's kind of the whole thing of this movie is over the top. Which, I mean, that they went for it and they stuck with it, so that's fine. It's just, it didn't hit for me. I'm not a big fan of the over the toppiness of movies like this.
Can I ask you a question?
No.
I'm gonna.
Okay.
I guess you can refuse to answer if you like. I see. It is dumb to say, "Can I ask a question?" Because sure you can. I just don't have to answer. Anyway, Let me rephrase that. I would like to ask you a question now, and the question is, we've talked about this a lot and how I sort of look at films, and there is a distinction between good and fun. A lot of times, those aren't always like those can be mutually exclusive.
Right.
A movie can be not great, but a good time.
Right.
Did you find this movie to be a good time? Did you have fun with it at all, or was it a slog for you?
That's a tough one. I don't think it was a slog, but I don't necessarily think I had the best time with it. It hit a lot of the notes that I like the police aspect. I like when they like Seven, something like gritty cop, investigative, semi-real worldiness to it. And I like that setting. I just don't think it kind of hit home for what I wanted out of something like that. So it was kind of like I didn't know what to expect, so I can't say it was a disappointment in that aspect. But when it started, I'm like, ooh, it's a cop thingy. I like cop horror movies. Those are good, to me anyway. And then it didn't really do what I wanted it to do. So I guess in that sense, it was a bit of a disappointment after I got kind of hyped at the beginning. And I like demon shit. So, I mean, it should have, in all theory, hit all the notes, but it didn't, like I said, too much was going on for me to get overly invested. And
I feel like, go ahead, sorry.
It just feels like in stuff like this, like in if you're going to be coppy about it, like have cops, and I think subtlety is far more valuable than over the topness.
I feel like, so if we were grading ourselves, I guess I don't know if we're doing grade like actual letters or just pass fail, but on a pass fail, I probably failed at picking something that you would love, apparently.
Yeah.
But I think I at least picked something that it was reasonable for me to expect that you might love. So I feel like I should get points for that. Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely it should have hit all the notes. It just didn't for me. And I am curious about Last Shift, and I'll try to find it and see if I can and watch it on some sort of streaming service. Because like I'm looking at the Rotten Tomatoes page, and they have some pictures of it up, and like some of the makeup on it and the monster design of, it seems like a girl in her underwear or naked crawling through shelves. That looks really cool. That looks better than almost everything in this movie in MALUM.
It's really good. I think given just what you've said so far, I feel like it's everything that you kind of liked about MALUM, or at least wanted to like, stripped of everything that took you out of it. Like, because it's like I said, it's much smaller. It's much simpler. But it is like the scares are genuine, and what is there is really effective. Like it's stripped down, but it's like very, very good with like the tension and the atmosphere and the showing you just enough to like freak you the fuck out, but not like being a big spectacle. So I would be incredibly curious, and I had a thought about it, and I did want to like make you watch yet another film. But had I thought about it, that would have been a really good exercise to have you watch both and have us kind of talk about it if you liked Last Shift a lot better. But I feel like you would, just given what you're saying about MALUM. Yeah,
I'm definitely curious about it. So maybe I'll try to find it and give it a watch and let you know if I liked it better.
Is there anything, like, would you recommend this to people? Is there anything, I know it wasn't for you, but is there anything you liked about it? Did it work for you on any level? Or
I mean, yeah, I don't know if I would recommend it to people, and I'm taking that on like my circle of people that I talk to on a regular basis who they wouldn't understand what this movie was about at all. They would just be like, this is bad, straight up. So, I mean, if somebody came up to me at work, because I work with like public people, like customers and whatnot, if they were like, hey, do you have a movie that you'd recommend to watch tonight? This wouldn't jump to the top of my list.
Mm-hmm. See, I'm obviously different. Big surprise. I would recommend this. I think it's a pretty fun time. Like, I feel like, I don't know, this is a really strange reaction to me, because I feel like it's kind of a film that it's certainly hard to be bored in, and it's hard to not be like, I mean, there's a lot of like cool shit happening. There's a lot of really cool visuals. I think I do think this director is really good with atmosphere. It's very atmospheric. I really like the setting. I think that, at a police station, a decommissioned police station, it's got a very like insane asylum kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Where there's just, it feels, even before demons and stuff start coming into the picture, it feels like inherently creepy and
Yeah,
unsettling.
something's off. Yeah.
And even things like she's getting all these phone calls, and that's really, and like people are like taunting her and stuff. And I feel like without anything supernatural happening, that would be a very scary experience. And even like simple things like there's a pig that gets in there. Somebody drops a pig on the front doorsteps, and she brings it in. And because I reviewed this film, and I talked about like the sound. I think the sound design is phenomenal. It's really good in Last Shift. It's really good in MALUM. It's even better in MALUM, I think. I think sound design is one of the areas where this, I guess, franchise, I don't know, for lack of a better word, really shines.
Mm-hmm.
The score is really good. The way that they use sound, things like a pig squealing, a pig like snorting and squealing, sounds so guttural and so terrifying. And I'm like, it's just a fucking pig. But when they have that pig noise happening, and it's like snorting or whatever it is, and it's not even making like I'm being attacked, like scared noises. It's just making normal piggy noises. But it's really scary in the context of how they do it. And I'm like, it's shit like that. Like I really appreciated how they, I don't know, did how they created kind of fear and tension and stuff. I said, I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, you're wrong for feeling like it's too much or it's too big or it's overblown. It's definitely intentionally, I think they throw a lot at it. But I think it's fun. I think it's a visual spectacle. I think it's scary. I think it's, it feels, there are homage-y stuff. Like you've seen a lot of this before, but it also still feels kind of original and fresh to me anyway, personally. And I do think that if you can, like to the point of the director, if you can see this in a theater with a crowd of horror fans, I think it's going to, I mean, you could watch it at home and I think it'll still be like good and worthwhile, but I do think it would be really cool on the big screen. I didn't get to see it on the big screen, but I should go see it on the big screen because I think it'd be really cool, especially with that big surround sound and everything. I think it would add to the creepy coolness of it. I don't know. I feel like it's a really fun movie, and I guess if I had to choose, and I was like, should you watch Last Shift or MALUM? That's a tough one. Kind of depends on the audience, honestly. Kind of depends on the viewer. I'd probably say if you're only going to do one, I'd probably still do Last Shift because I think it's a damn fine, like almost perfect film for a small indie budget horror film. But I don't know. I think you'll have a really good time with MALUM especially if you like demons and you like special effects and you like this kind of. If you watch the trailer and stuff and you're like, that looks cool, I think you'll probably have a good time with it, in my personal opinion. Unless you're Casey or Casey's friends.
Yeah, well, I don't have friends, so that's kind of why my circle's very small.
I know, you always, when you reference your friends, I'm like, oh God, well.
Yeah, they don't exist.
I don't know.
I just want to say one thing about, like, it's completely off topic of the movie.
Okay.
He said it's a movie you should see in theaters, and I know you're a big theater proponent. And
are you gonna say something shitty right now? Because I might.
No, it's just something I noticed because I don't go to theaters too often, but I saw Scream. I think it was fairly recently in theater, and
yay.
I don't know when they started doing this, but before the movie, it was like Courtney Cox and Jenna Ortega or something, like thanking the audience. I'm like, wow, they're fucking desperate for people to go to movie theaters. And like they looked like they did not want to be doing that little fucking PSA. But I was just like, wow, I guess I'm part of the
problem.
Well, not the problem, but the populace, the general, the majority of population that are just like, you know what, movie theaters are over fucking rated nowadays.
We're not going to go down this rabbit hole because we will go down a rabbit hole. And as I mentioned before, it is our anniversary. We're going to keep it light and loving today. At some point, we will, I think maybe we should dedicate a whole episode, or at least part of an episode, to talking about
I think we should.
Why the fuck theaters, like,
suck.
Why that's important. You could talk about why they suck. I could talk about why I think it's important. We can maybe have, that might be a good time to have like a couple guests on and have like an actual debate and discussion about
No,
this.
because you're just going to invite all your morbidly beautiful friends.
No.
You're like, I'm theater, I work at, I own a theater. Like, it's going to be like 18 versus 1.
No, you can
Out of any of your friends, quote unquote friends, or people you would invite onto this podcast, do any of them dislike theaters?
Here's what we'll do, Casey. We will open it up. Look, you would have veto. We would make it fair. We could open it up to our audience and we could be like, listen, like, if you want to come on and talk about it, like, we need at least somebody to represent the theater side, somebody to represent the theater suck side. Like, we can have an actual fair roundtable balanced discussion, or you and I could duke it out, but it would be fun to get other people's perspective.
We should just duke it out, no holes barred.
Okay.
Like, no holding back on feelings or emotions or anything like that. We fucking put barbed wire on the fucking brick boxing mitts and go at it.
I will not hold back because I'm very passionate about this topic.
Yeah, I know.
And
so am I.
It makes me, it's not only like, it's not that I like get mad. It's like, it just gets sad because I feel like it's, I don't know. It's just like and it's weird because like you're an old dude, right? But a lot of the like younger generation.
Jesus.
Well, I'm kidding.
Hey,
also, and
I got
can say that because
I got ID'd the other day, and the guy almost turned me away because I thought my ID was fake. He's like, "There's no way you're 35." He's like, "You look like you're 20.
Young.
You look like you're 22." I had just shaved too, so I guess that was part of it. But so
you do look very baby face, Casey. I will give you that. And I can only say that because I'm an old lady, so it's like I'm not like a 22-year-old calling you an old dude,
which is fair.
But listen, I've said that because I feel like a lot of the younger generation sort of just grew up where like there's no physical media. It's like theaters are a thing of the past. Everything is digital. Everything is streaming. That's sort of the only thing they know or even like can understand or fathom. And I think it's a little different if you're somewhat older, slightly older, and you saw the transition from getting from point A to point B and where we were, where we are now, what we've lost, what we've gained. So I don't know. It was definitely a trend that was happening before COVID, but COVID definitely accelerated the process of like, everybody just stay the fuck home.
Yeah. Which
isn't terrible on some level, but also, yeah, we'll talk about it. It's a discussion for another podcast, but I think it'd be a great one. Yes. Awesome. Let's, a discussion for today is you picked a movie for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you already, the first thing I was going to ask you was like, why did you think that I would hate this? And I know that when you told me to watch it, you were like, well, it's Seann Willam Scott is a serial killer, so I think you'll hate that. And I just need to, before we get into this, I need to ask you a question.
Yes, you think he's hot and you love him and he's one of those actors that you think can do no wrong, I'm going to assume. Like every other actor on the fucking planet.
This concerns me a little bit because, like, at least, okay, so I didn't nail MALUM, but at least, like you admitted, it seemed like something that potentially you could have liked, or maybe you should have liked, or would have liked had it been a little bit different. I feel like you don't know me at all because, like, this is my jam. Like,
everything's your jam. That's the problem. Okay, I'm gonna go back through every episode and like chat GTP AI shit and be like, find how many times she says this is my jam. It's gonna be 49 fucking times because every episode you say it.
The reason is because the idea. But this does so many things that I love. First of all, I love seeing somebody cast against type. I love the idea of somebody who plays typical types of characters, like that are generally good guys or goofy guys or whatever, becoming like a bad boy, or somewhat of a bad boy. I like that a lot. I also really do like that dichotomy between like, I'm a good guy, but I'm a bad boy and I'm dangerous, but I also love my family, but I'm also like, that's really hot to me. Really dig that a lot. Okay. Like there's a scene that I lost my shit over. It's when I posted on Instagram and I was like, this dude is hot. What the hell? When he is, I think it's like the second guy he kills, the rapist.
Mm-hmm.
When he does that like stab
the
thing,
sewing machine.
So fucking hot. And then he like takes off his little coat or whatever. He's like, got his like, just t-shirt on, and then he heads to the hospital for his wife and baby, and I'm like, oh my god, he's like the perfect guy because he's like being all brutal and like stab, and then he's like And he's like,
Jesus
I love my
Christ.
family. It's really fun and it's really hot. And Seann Willam Scott is great. So I don't know why you thought that I would not enjoy him in this film. I was also a big Dexter fan, and this is based on the same source material. It's inspired by the same book.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And obviously, which I didn't know it either, but when I heard the concept, I was like, that sounds very Dexter. Like, what the heck? And then was doing a little bit of research and found that like they're both inspired by the same story. They obviously take it in somewhat a little bit different directions, but essentially kind of the same. And I like that. I like, because see, the thing, this is the reason. It's because it appeals to, you said there's something wrong with me, and there's a lot wrong with me. Let me just be clear there.
Apparently.
But you know how like you kind of like have that thing, and this is something that's in the zeitgeist right now that a lot of people are talking about, is like when you have things like You and you have Dahmer and stuff, where they take like hot dudes and make them serial killers.
Mm-hmm.
And then people like me are like, I kind of really like the serial killer. What the fuck's wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
And and I like this because they take a guy and they're like, okay, he's a serial killer, so shame on you. But then they're also like, but he's also a good guy and he's killing bad guys. And so does that make him kind of a good guy? And so you could kind of like make apologies to yourself. Like you can kind of accept it and be like, it's okay, I'm a good person, because he's killing bad people, so he's kind of a good person. So I'm not totally demented for really thinking that he's hot right now doing this stab thing. You see what I'm saying? Like it works on so many levels.
I guess. So, okay, I'll tell you the thought process behind this, besides just Seann Willam Scott being like a serious serial killer. And I remember the reason I picked this was for that reason, but God knows how many years ago now. I read a quote. This was back in, I don't know if they do this in theaters in the United States, but there was like a magazine that was for the theater chain here. I forget what it was called, but like they had them free every time you walked in. You could pick up one of these magazines. It was just like movie news and stuff. It was once a month sort of thing. And there was a quote from him in it being like, I want to be cast as a serial killer, psycho bad guy in some movie. And this was like 20 years ago. And that stuck with me because I'm like, you know what? I also want to see that movie. And then this movie came out in 2018 and I was like, oh, okay, it actually happened. So I thought like it like and that was like kind of the height of American Pie. So I was like, that's kind of insane that he wants to do that. But okay, I mean, Jim Carrey did it with 23, so I mean, why not? Or whatever that movie was called. And so I thought it was going to be ridiculous, and I thought you would find it ridiculous because I figured, like most people, when you see Seann Willam Scott, you think Stifler, which is what I would assume most people of our generation would think. And I thought you would just kind of giggle at it and be like, that's kind of ridiculous. I didn't think you would have like, oh my God, the bad boy's a good boy and the good boy's the bad boy and he fucking stabs people so fast. He must be really good with his hands. Didn't think that would happen. Secondly, I thought you would find it a little derivative of Dexter and be like, oh my gosh, just a fucking ripoff of that with like worse acting and worse writing and worse directing and all that sort of stuff. And then you're like, oh my God, it was the same as Dexter and I'm dripping. Like I need to change my pants.
Gross. All right, listen. A couple things here. If we can even get through this one. I'm glad we saved this one for the last. I really am. Okay. So there are some scenes and some things that I think we have to talk about with this film.
Sure.
You're probably going to know what they are before we even talk about them. But before we get there, did you, so you'd seen this before or you just knew?
No, I watched it, I don't know, probably close to when it came out.
Okay. Did you pick this because you thought I would hate it, or did you also hate it? Do you think it's terrible? Or did you like it, but you're like, Stephanie will hate it?
A little from column A, a little from column B. Okay. I didn't necessarily love it. On second watch, I probably liked it a little bit less than I did the first time. Yeah, I don't know. I have some gripes. I have some things you can be like, oh, it's nitpicky, but I have some issues with the overall, like a lot of things, especially plot holes. But
I thought you would like it because one of the things
I
I
like
think
the
it does
premise
really,
because Dexter.
yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I think it does really well is, I think it's shot really well. It's got a really good visual style. It's very De Palma, Argento kind of inspired with the way they use colors and, different shots and like with the reflection of the knife and split screen and cool shit like that. That I felt like you would really appreciate because you're like a technical guy. You like the production aspects.
Yeah,
and
the production was good.
Produced really well. Like it looks really good, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it would get points for that. I thought Seann Willam Scott did a great job. Did you think that he was convincing and good and believable? And okay.
No. I know he was trying to play wooden, but it came off as like wooden as a bad actor, kind of wooden. Like
you don't like wood?
And I love wood, but beside the point. And I had that issue with a lot of the actors in this movie. I thought everybody kind of came off just a little bit wooden, from Seann Willam Scott to the mom to the wife, even the detective near the end. The only one who I thought brought any kind of power and emotion to it was, I think his name was Chris, the kid.
Chris is good. And Chris's dad was really good too.
Yeah, I mean, he just had such a small role. It didn't make much of an impact with me.
See, it did with me because that's the first time. Because in the first, they do a really smart job of the first two guys that he kills, are like so over the top bad guy, like almost comically villain. They're like, I like raping young girls because it's fun.
Yeah.
Like it's like really, you're like, okay, stab the fuck out of this guy. And the guy that he does like stab is so despicably gross and horrific.
Yeah,
that
you're like touching his
you're
niece
like,
or whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's absolutely those moments.
Then he gets to Chris's dad though, and there's like he's got depth. He's flawed. He's an addict. He can't help it. He's emotional. He cares about his son, but he's damaged. And that's where you start to be like, okay, you start to question the moral code. Like, yeah, I guess technically he's a bad guy if he's done bad things, but does that make you a bad guy, or does that make you, sick and flawed?
Right.
And
yeah, I get that.
Stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Sorry.
No. I don't know where I was, but
yes, I know, because I interrupted. You were talking. I was like, so
like the
woodenness
woodenness of a lot of the actors.
Yes,
yeah. Like I said, I get he's supposed to be kind of like emotionally distant, but even I don't know. It all came off very Stifler trying to be serial killer. Like it just didn't hit a lot of the notes I was hoping it would. Like you look at Dexter and he plays it very similar, but it just feels more natural, feels better coming from Michael C. Hall, that's his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels better coming from him than it does Seann Willam Scott. And even taking away the fact that I know he's a goofy Stifler more so comedy actor. Have you ever seen Goon?
I haven't. I love Goon.
He plays the same character in Goon as he does this.
Do you like Goon? Or do
I
you
love
not
Goon.
Like Goon.
I love Goon. I think
Okay.
I thought Goon worked for that character. I don't think it worked for this character. And I feel like he had the same approach because he doesn't know quite how to grasp the seriousness without. He wants to be like, I don't want to inflect any emotion to it, so I'm just like rehearsing the lines. Is kind of what it sounded like when he was speaking.
Is it legally required for you guys to watch Goon in Canada?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And Goon
Just making
too.
Sure.
With
Yes.
Liev Schreiber. Well, one of them had Liev Schreiber. I don't know which one it was. The first one? Both of them?
Did you see Final Destination, the original one?
Yep.
Okay. He's in that, right? That's like his first
Yeah, but he plays Stifler.
He does play
That one.
Stifler. I love him. Well, I love him and everything, but yeah, he's so fun in Final Destination. And I did. It's funny because after I watched this, I was like, I'm gonna go back and like rewatch Final Destination, because I obviously I've seen it, and I've seen it a few times, but it's been a while. And yeah, I was just like, yeah, he pretty much is just he's just Stifler in it, but he's great.
Yeah. But yeah.
I don't know. I thought he was really good in this. And I really, I kind of expected, what I thought I was going to feel about this film?
What?
I thought it was going to be, I didn't think I would hate it, just given the premise and that I really like this actor. And, it's
I had no idea you liked Seann Willam fucking Scott.
How could I not, first of all, is the first question you need to ask yourself. But if I assumed, and I knew that it was like Blumhouse and stuff, so I knew that it wasn't going to look like shit. It wasn't going to be garbage. I thought it was going to be meh. I thought it was going to be a little bit like, and I thought that may have been why you picked it, that it was just going to be very underwhelming.
Right.
But I actually I don't know, I liked it more than I sort of expected to. I thought it was, now I don't think it's a masterpiece, so you'll be happy to know that.
That's a win for my column.
I know. I wouldn't go around going like, oh my God, have you seen Bloodline? Like, holy fucking shit, you guys need to run out and see this. So it's not that level for me, but I think it's better than fine. It's not like phenomenal. I think it's pretty good. I think it's got a lot going for it. And I enjoyed it. Like I wasn't bored. I wasn't like, okay, whatever. Like, it's certainly, I can see why it feels derivative because obviously Dexter. But I mean, I liked what they did with it. I thought they made some good choices. I did think, to your point, there are some plot holes. The ending's fun. And I kind of don't want to spoil it. I don't know. I know we spoil shit all the time. I don't even know if we need to talk about it. The ending is cool in a lot of ways. It is also like, it does stretch credulity a little bit. You are a little bit like, oh, okay, this feels kind of whatever, a little too perfect, or I don't even know how to describe it. But I will tell you what I really did like. I really liked the hospital scene where the nurse is getting killed, like for the second time, because they show that a little bit of it in the opening.
You think it's him, but he's actually going for the dad.
Yeah, I really liked the misdirection there, and I liked the reveal. And I did think that was like pretty fun and well done. Yeah, I mean, I thought that this film had a lot of it had some cool scenes. It had some stuff that stood out to me that's memorable. I don't think it's perfect, but I thought it was pretty solid. I certainly didn't come close to hating it. But it's not like, oh God, this is now one of my favorite movies of all time. But it was fun to see, and I'm glad you made me watch it, because it's weird. It wasn't even on my radar. Like, I would think that I would have known this existed and have been all about it, but I don't know how it just totally went unnoticed by me.
Well, if this didn't do it for you in terms of hatred, I need to know then, like, what did you have a movie in mind where you're like, I really hope he doesn't pick this because I don't want to see it, or I've seen it and I fucking hate it? Because I need to know. No. I need to know if there's any movie out there that you've watched in recent memory, other than maybe Smiley, where you're like, I can't. This movie's so bad. I can't.
I mean, Slender Man's pretty horrible.
Right. It's not great.
You definitely had, I don't know, I was going to say you had a tougher job than I did, trying to find something that I would hate versus me trying to find something you love, although I think my job's pretty tough too. There wasn't anything I had in mind, and there wasn't anything I was like, oh, I hope he doesn't pick. I was just very curious what you would pick, like what kind of film you would pick for me that you would think there was a potential that I would dislike. Yeah. Like I was just wanted to know your thought process and kind of how you would go about that. I thought that'd be super fun. And so it's not so much about like, would I actually not like it? Just you trying to get inside my head of like what I might not like, which arguably, you're right, is tough because most of the stuff we've talked about on the show I've liked. So you don't have a lot of frame of reference for what kind of shit really pisses me off.
Yeah.
But maybe for an episode I should pick something that does piss me off that I hate, and we should talk about that so I can just actually be angry and riled up the whole time and have a little role reversal, and then you'll see like what shit I don't like. It's usually stuff that is just, honestly, it's stuff that's just lazy and badly executed. Soulless, and you can tell that it's a cash grab, and you can tell that there is no originality, no fun, no whatever. That's the shit that usually we should have picked
the Mummy from the Tom Cruise Mummy movie. You probably
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen it.
Oh, well.
Because it didn't look that good to me.
Oh, I fucking see. My general thought process for originally, I was like, let's just find like the most indie piece of shit thing that I can possibly find that was shot on like a cell phone from 2007. And then I'm like, no, you'll love that. So I'm like, we watched fucking Party Bus from Hell. We did that weird fucking Mexican thing, the whatever that was, the Mexican Chainsaw Massacre.
Didn't
and you're
like
like
that.
You fucking loved it. Shut up. You loved it.
I did not. No, it was garbage. But we had a guest on, and I was trying not to be like a dick. But I mean, look, I appreciate it. I appreciate the audience that it was made for, and I'm not going to sit there and hate on it because I knew what it was trying to be. But I'm not the audience for that.
Well, see, yeah, but that's not what I'm.
I don't like gross out humor just to be gross out. You know, it's not funny or fun to me. Like bathroom humor and shit is like I can live without it.
Yeah,
my whole life.
Yeah, no, it's understandable. So yeah, I didn't know where to go from there. So I was like, this seems like just mediocre enough that you might not enjoy. You might find that soulless factor in it. You might find the ridiculousness of some of the plot points and the holes and the wooden acting and maybe the little obvious misdirects. Like you said, they're misdirects, but some of them were pretty obvious. I just thought maybe this might, maybe not hate, but definitely be like, I did not enjoy my experience with this movie.
I don't think it was a dumb choice or a bad choice. Like, I don't think that I think your thinking was right. Like, it's kind of similar to me. I think that that's a really smart approach. And I think that this definitely could have been that. But I did find that there was like more effort. Like, I felt like this was effort put into this. I think that there was some soul. I do think just stylistically, you could definitely tell the reverence that they have for like other filmmakers, like we mentioned, like De Palma.
Mm-hmm.
And so that always is going to kind of elevate it because it's not just like somebody who's like, oh, I've got a camera and I just want to make a movie. It's somebody who does like appreciate the craft, study the craft,
production behind it, and the budget.
Yeah, and I feel like Seann Willam Scott, like regardless of how you think he did, I think he like wanted to do it. Like I think he was.
Oh yeah, he absolutely wanted to. Like I said, this he in an interview from like fucking 2008 or something like that. He said he wanted to play like a serious role, and I think even Kevin Smith in an interview or one of his stand-up things or his podcast or something said he would love to cast Seann Willam Scott as a bad guy. And then here he is.
I would like to see him, having done this, I would like to see him be like this is going to sound weird, like a real bad guy. Like a villain. Unredeemable bad guy. Yeah. Like that would be fun to see him just be wicked and just to have like no moral compass whatsoever. That'd be really fucking fun.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely got the look for it. Like he's got that like intense kind of brow.
That jawline.
And the jawline and all that. But it's his voice. It's so soft. It's hard for, and it's not soft in like a creepy villainous way. It's like soft in like a, I don't know, like a Stifler way. It's like it doesn't strike me as fearful. And the way he delivers things and just kind of like the way his mouth moves while he talks is also very like not scary, not villainous to me.
To your point, like it wouldn't have worked in this film. I think he played it the way he needed to in this film. Very like kind of stoic and whatever. But you talk about the woodness. I would also pay to see and love to see because like you have serial killers like the Ted Bundys and stuff that are very like charming, and that's kind of how they can do what they do is because they can make you want to be around them and be seduced by them. Like I would love to see a Stifler by day and a serial killer by night. Like he's got a Stifler personality and he's that charming and that effortless. He's also psychotic and a serial killer.
American Psycho.
Yes. Well, American Psycho's great, but I would love to see. Yeah, I would like to see a Stifler version of American Psycho. Remake American Psycho, put Stifler in it, and I'm there. I'm on board.
I was like, well, we can amalgamate the names from American Pie and American Psycho, but that's just American Psycho. So
yes. Psycho Pie.
Psycho
would
Pie,
be a great movie, and I would watch it. I would watch the shit out of that.
One too many Stifler's mom's jokes sent him over the edge.
Yeah, and it put Jennifer Coolidge in it, and I am like so sold. I think we've got a movie here, Casey. Maybe this is our next project as we make a movie together.
Maybe. It's like Pooh, Blood and Honey, just with American Pie.
I was like,
wait, Pooh, what?
I was like, what? And then Blood and Honey. I was like, wait, oh my God, that really like threw me for a loop there.
Have you seen that one?
Wait. First of all, I was just about to ask you. I have not seen it.
I haven't seen it. No, I have not.
Oh, shit. Does this need to be our next movie?
It might have to be.
Because I honestly don't know how I'm going to feel about it. Like, this could
Yeah.
go either way.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, you would like that better than the suggestion I had for our next movie. So, I don't know. I think we might need to consider Poo, Blood, and Honey as a topic of discussion.
I just hate the name, but you know. It sounds like 120 Days of Sodom, but like just a little more on the nose.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, I feel like it's hard to go from anywhere from there. I'm like, should we stop now? Can I say one thing before we do stop? Because
Yes.
I don't think we have to go into a lot of detail here, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna say, so I did write, I took very few notes this time, but I did note that like this was the kind of second episode in a row where we immediately right out of the gate start out with a fully naked girl taking a shower and getting stabbed in the shower.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, is this a trend for us now? And this,
I'm okay with
but
that.
it's weird. This is the difference. This is a lot of nudity. But it didn't feel. It felt like artistic nudity. If
It
that
felt like
makes sense.
Psycho.
I know that's such a weird thing.
It was almost
yes.
like Psycho, the scene from. I mean, it was obviously an homage because it's a shower and you don't really see
Yes.
the killer and all that because it was revealed a little bit later who it was and. Yeah, but I mean, there was the full frontal and
Yeah.
I
And
did
you
not
get
like
it
that in
twice.
this character. Yeah, you get the same scene
No.
twice. Yeah, that I mean,
She
like
was
I like
horrific.
not even that she was like she was the thing from like the cop from MALUM, just like over the
too
top
much.
mean. Yeah, like
Too
I've
bitchy.
like I've met some like flippant nurses in my time, but never mean nurses. They're usually very nice and personable. That's why they're a fucking nurse. They're a caregiver, not like some unsufferable cunt. Insufferable.
Yeah, no, I get it. And it was interesting. It's interesting having watched those two films sort of back to back. The difference between like a gratuitous nudity, male gazy, lingering kind of thing, and okay, there's nudity somewhat with a purpose, and it isn't shot in a way that feels super pervy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting because it's basically the same exact thing, right? It's just two fully naked women taking a shower, getting stabbed. I mean, it's crazy how different those scenes can feel when they're essentially kind of the same thing. So I found that interesting. But I will say the other note I have is like, I have never seen, this is one thing I've never seen before in my life, which is crazy because I've seen a lot of shit. Is that baby being born?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That was maybe the most horrifying thing we've talked about in 50 episodes. Like I was like, and
Yeah.
not that birth is horrifying. I mean, it obviously is beautiful. Motherhood is beautiful, but I've never seen it so explicitly shown on a film.
The only other time I can say I've seen something like that is Knocked Up. They had a scene like that.
Like it was.
It was almost like shot for shot the same. Like,
really?
yeah, like the crowning. I don't know if they showed as much in Knocked Up. You definitely see like the crowning and like the head start to pop through.
Yeah, played for comedy though, right? Like I guess.
Yeah. But it's like the same prop. I swear to God, it was like the same fucking prop.
I was going to say props to the special effects because that felt real as hell. Like, I was like, I am watching a baby being born right now. And it's crazy because it's obviously, that's such a beautiful thing. Like, you're bringing life into this world.
Yeah, but
and
it's gross
also
as fuck.
so gruesome and
Come
so
on.
horrifying
Yeah,
and
no.
so like,
Oh, the birth of a baby is great. It's like shit everywhere and there's blood and goo. And it's like, that's not beautiful. Like, the end result, sure, fine. Call it whatever you want. But
I mean,
the
it's
process
beautiful that
of
you
it-
can do it, that the human body can do
Yeah, but
that,
human bodies are gross.
Yeah, they are.
So, I mean, like, let's not, like, try to sugarcoat this. It's fucking gross.
So, I'm just going to give you a little tidbit that is apropos of absolutely nothing and you will not give a shit about, okay? So I just need to preface that. So why I'm saying it, I don't know, because really no one's going to give a shit about, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Okay.
I have a cat. I have several cats, but I have a cat
Okay.
who is she's very freaked out by high-pitched noises. Like sometimes when I'm scrolling a reel or something, she'll freak the fuck out. And there's a very specific type of noise that freaks her out. And baby crying sends her over the edge. Like it makes her lose her goddamn mind. So there is like the first part of this film is like so much traumatic baby shit. Like it's crying. It's almost to the point where I was like, ugh, like this is grating on my nerves.
Yeah.
And babies are great too, but it's really tough.
Babies aren't fucking great. Come on. You don't have to lie.
But this baby is crying and crying and crying, and my cat is losing her ever-loving mind. She's crawling all over my face. She's like meowing at me. She's like on the computer, like, and I was like, how long is this? And it felt like it went on for an hour, and she was just like going bananas. And I was like, I might not be able to watch this film because this is a little too much. And it was just, I thought that was funny because I was like, oh, Jesus, please, baby, shut the fuck up. For my sanity, for the sake of my cat, for everyone involved. Just a little fun tidbit. Yeah. All right. Well,
just picturing it.
it was insane. I wish I could have videotaped it because she was like, she was freaking out. She's like, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, I know. It's a lot right now.
Also, you just aged yourself by saying videotaped it.
I told you I'm old. I've never hidden this fact. I am an old lady. Yes, I know. Sorry. But yeah, I think this was fun. I like that we did a little experiment. We tried something new, broke out of the box a little bit. That was fun. Mm-hmm. It was fun to see what you thought that I might not like. Even though didn't quite nail it, and I didn't quite nail it either. But, you know, we gave a valiant effort, and I think that should be commended.
Yes, there was logic behind our picks.
Yes.
We put the thought behind it, yes.
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 All right. Okay. Well, good time. Like I said, I've got some thoughts for what we can do next because I think that this celebration needs to continue a little bit.
Sure. Why not? We'll celebrate until episode 100.
Yeah. I think we'll make it to 100. That seems...
I don't know if I'll be alive by the time we get to 100, but you know.
I don't either because when we started off, like we were really good. We recorded a lot. We were very like consistent.
Like weekly almost, I think.
I know. And then... yeah, we definitely fell off the rails, and now it's like once every 6 months or something. Yeah. So it's going to be a while before we get to 100.
Yeah. I mean, if we just sat and fucking talked, like we can do that movie theater one whenever because there's not a lot of prep. You don't need to sit down and spend 4 hours of your week watching movies or more. But yeah, I mean, sitting down and trying to find the time to talk is depends because my schedule with fucking work changes on a blink of an eye, but...
I know. You're very annoying.
I know. It must be nice to have a 9 to 5 100K a year job. And
it's so nice. It's so nice being like loaded and, you know, having a super important
stable
job.
Schedule. And
the stable yeah, I mean, thank God for that because, you know, like Morbidly Beautiful and podcasting and stuff takes a lot of my time. So I've got to have...
You got to have your schedule down. Yeah.
Got to have my time, you know, to do the things that are important. Like, because the work is just a thing you do for money, right?
Yeah. No, I only have one job that is kind of stable in that sense, where it's the same time every day, and then my other 3 are just like all over the fucking place. So
your other 3, Jesus Christ, Casey, how are you finding time to do this? Our little crazy little podcast.
Thankfully, I have learned or tried my best to at least cut one day of the weekend where I can just do whatever I want.
You know what the smartest thing that you ever did was?
What?
Which isn't saying a lot, but this is the smartest thing. So I started another podcast, which is really fun, but I'm doing your job basically. Mm-hmm. But that one gets edited.
Yeah.
And the fact that you don't edit this is so smart because that editing sucks.
See, that is experience from working in radio where when I was an intern, they were like, hey, we have a show. We need you to edit out every single breath in this 3-hour program. And I'm
brutal.
And I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, there's a backlog of like 40 episodes. I'm like, I quit. Like, fuck.
I quit.
So yeah.
You know, it's kind of fun because it's like magic because, you know, the finished product seems so polished and so like, oh, it's just, you know, it's perfect. It's all the beats. And you like, but you listen to the original and you're like, there's a lot of shit that got cut out and edited and mashed together to make it seem like it was this flawless thing. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of cool being able to do it, but it's also very time consuming. And
yeah, I hate editing.
It's a lot. So very smart that people just listen, like whatever they get, you know, like if we sound like garbage, if we fuck up, if we whatever, they get it. They get all our natural glory.
Hey, the most popular podcast in the world is unedited.
What's the most popular podcast in the world?
The Joe Rogan
Don't want to hear.
Experience.
Oh God. See, please don't. I mean,
Thoughts on who he is and what he does aside, it is the most popular program on the internet, and it's recorded on video. He's like, I gotta go pee, fill time. Then he gets up and goes pee, and the guest is just like to the producer, so what's up? And he comes back, he's like, all right. Like, that's,
I would hate. I would, as a
fucking
guest, I'd
entertaining
be
as
like,
hell.
oh my God, like deer in headlights. I hate when people do that to me. Put me on the spot. They're like, oh, riff and just start talking. I'm like,
Yeah, but I mean,
Christ.
usually his guests, like, he won't do that with like a doctor, but like when Bert Kreischer or whatever is on like another comedian, it's fine because that's what their job is. But yeah, so I mean, that's completely unedited and it gets fucking 25 bajillion downloads a minute. So
yeah, I think it's just because it's unedited. That's what really people are tuning in for.
yeah, 100%, it's raw.
Yeah.
And it makes sense for him not to edit, because if he edits his shit, then people are going to accuse him of miscontent. Like, oh, that person out of context shit. So it makes sense.
No, I get it.
And same here. Like, I could edit it and just be like, have you be like, Casey is the best. Like, we could do that.
I'm surprised you haven't, to be honest. I'm surprised you haven't done some kind of show promo. That's it's probably just because you're too lazy to do it.
Yeah, because I could definitely do that. Yeah, 100%.
All right. Well, I think this is the part that we always suck at, the ending. But I think that's our show. We need some sort of like really fun ending. We need to work on that so that we can always just hit it and get out.
Hit it and quit it.
Hit it and quit it. The way it's supposed to be.
The way I live my life.
I know.
Yeah. Anyway, reviews. Leave them.
See what I'm saying? Like we cannot end a show. We're terrible.
Endings are hard. Ask Stephen King. So, if you want to leave a review, you can do so on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, or you can leave a 5-star rating on Spotify on the mobile app. Do it.
Pretty, please.
Do it. If you do it, I'll do my Ghostface impression next week, which is really good.
Is it?
It's really good.
So
I'll do it for you after we go off air.
If we get any Spotify star reviews, you will do your.
I'll do the intro
impression.
As the Ghostface.
You
voice.
guys, I
there
mean, that's worth 2 seconds of your time.
Yeah.
I might go. I've already reviewed it. I guess I can't do it again.
I mean, you can start another account. You just sign up with another email.
That's how ethical we are. I'm just going to set up a bunch of fake accounts and favorite our show.
Yeah, suddenly we have 400,000 5-star reviews. You just set up like an AI bot to do it.
Blew up overnight. Yeah. I'm doing it.
Cool. But yeah, do that, and maybe next time you'll get a treat. Maybe.
Okay. Maybe. All right.
Alrighty. Until next time.
Bye-bye.